I hate school. I hate school.
And welcome home to you too. How was school today?
Hi, Ma. How are you?
What did you do in school today?
Stuff.
What stuff?
I don't know, nothing, really.
No, I don't
Boring.
believe you didn't do anything. Tell me, what did you do?
What did I do? I don't know. We had lunch.
I'm so happy to hear that. I was afraid they might be starving you to death.
I'm Marty Nemko. Lest we go too far, I'm Marty Nemko. And this is the Nemkos Do Your Child's School Year. We're going to try to make this your best school year yet, despite who I am.
Hi, I'm Barbara Nemko. I'm the County Superintendent of Schools, and I'm hoping this is not the way your child comes home from school. I'm pretty sure it isn't. I do, however, suspect this is how he did used to come home from school, and I'm feeling for his mother right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, continue. So
the first thing is when we say,
no, get
what
in the
did
role
you do
play.
in
Do
school
it.
today?
Do it. Just do it. Be you.
Let me see your notebook.
Why?
I want to see what you did in school today. You haven't told me anything.
I did math.
Well, let's see.
You don't need to see it.
I do. I really do. Okay.
Einstein, come here. I'm going to need you for this. Come here, Einstein. Einstein, come. Come on. What's your best rookie? I'm going to need you for this. She's not going to like this.
Your notebook's kind of a mess, and I'm not.
You're a neat freak. I don't have to be neat. I know where everything is.
I'm not seeing very good grades here on this math work.
It's hard. It's stupid. Why do I need to know math?
Because you need to use math all the time.
Quadratic equations?
If you would like to have a career someday, it's very likely that you're going to
I'm going to be a baseball player. maybe a marine biologist. I'm going to do
and
stuff.
Marine biologists need to know math and science. And if you want to go to school and get an education so you can be a marine biologist, you better know this stuff.
Theory of a parabola? I don't need to know.
Yeah, actually, you do.
I don't like it.
I understand that.
No, I like you.
So let's start from the beginning of the day. What was the first thing that you did when you got to school?
I poked Mary in the side in the yard. It was fun chasing her.
You know, that's not really funny.
Yes.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing in school.
Very
Would you please take your hat off?
Okay, my teacher makes me do that. I hate her. She makes me take my hat off. I like my hat.
I understand, and you can wear your hat when you go outside, but we don't wear hats in the house. We don't wear hats in school.
You don't, but I do.
But you shouldn't.
You're so mean. So's my teacher. Mrs. Smith is really mean. You know what she does to me?
She makes you take your hat off.
No, much worse.
She expects you to do
She
your
embarrasses
schoolwork.
me. She makes me sit in the back to stop because she doesn't want me. I don't know what she doesn't want.
Perhaps she doesn't want you poking Mary?
I only do that on the playground. I don't do that in the school,
Why
in
would
the
you
class.
do that on the playground?
Because it's fun. She screams. It's fun. I chase her around. She likes it. She giggles. She likes it.
You know better than that. We don't hit people. We don't poke people.
We don't.
We keep our hands to ourselves.
Can I play? I want to play with my Nintendo.
Not right now. Have you done your homework? What's your homework for
I don't
today?
have homework.
Yes, you do have homework. You have homework every day.
I can do it later.
No.
I need a break.
You will do it now before you can play with your Nintendo.
And now let's break the roll for a minute.
Okay?
Of course, I was being particularly annoying.
Very, yes.
Right.
And you do that so well.
It comes natural.
One would think it does come naturally.
Absolutely. So, okay, so tell me, and tell our dear listeners, viewers, what would you really do in this situation?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think it's a perennial problem. For time immemorial, parents have said, what did you do in school today? And kids have said nothing. And in fact, when I was teaching, one of the earliest tricks I learned was before I dismissed the children at the end of the day, I would have them online waiting for the bell to ring, and I'd say, okay, what did we do today? Who remembers all the things we did? What did we do first? What did we do next? What did we learn today? And that way, when they walked home and their parents said, what did you do? It was fresh in their mind, because it's sometimes too hard to pick out of all the many things that happened in the day exactly what happened. A better question might be, one, what did you learn in school today? What did you learn that was new today? Or what was the best thing that happened in school today? What was the worst thing that happened in school today? Because those are more likely to tease out actual responses than nothing.
Actually, I liked when you were saying, what did you do first, what did you do second? I was annoying, but, in the end, that gives me a time anchor. And I might indeed say, oh, yeah, we did math first, or we did English first. Doing math, you would then say. And that would kind of play detective and tease out what's really going on.
But what I like better than what did you do, because maybe we did multiplication or we did division, I want to know what you learned. So what was new in what you learned today? Is there something, did you learn multiplication by 2 numbers, or did you learn decimal points or place value?
I think for the fun of it, why don't we try reversing roles? You be the kid in any way you want to be the kid, bad kid, or any kind of different kid. Just to provide different perspectives, and then I'll pretend I'm the parent. And that way we give our viewers a buffet of approaches and options. So, how was school today?
Good.
Good? Tell me. So,
yeah. Susie invited me to her birthday party.
I'm really excited. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I know how much fun that is.
There are going to be balloons and birthday cake, and I think there's going to be a jumping box.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
By the way, so what I was trying to do there is to not start already with the interrogation, but rather to establish a rapport. So sitting down with me after school is not a nightmarish, like the detective with the lights beaming down.
And what I was trying to do is not answer the question.
Right.
I was going to talk about all the irrelevant things.
Right, but I wanted to, I didn't want to rush through that another moment. No, I recognize that parents are exhausted. They come home. I am not trying to say that you always have time to do this or the patience or whatever. You just pick and choose, but I'm trying to model something what I think is decent. Okay, I'm really delighted. That's great. Now,
Jane's coming too.
That's great. I remember.
And Bobby.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's her 9th birthday. It's going to be fun.
I really am really glad. I remember though yesterday we were talking and you showed, I made you show me your math homework and it was like not so great.
I did it all.
What do you really think? Do you need more help in math? Do you need a tutor? Do you need me to sit with you a little bit? Do you need me to talk to the teacher? What do you really think about math? About if we need to do anything with regard to math?
No, I'm good.
Really?
Yeah.
And I probably would, because this doesn't all have to be done one time. I probably would have accepted that for that day, but I would have planted a seed. And if I keep coming back to math gently, eventually I think she's going to cry and say how hard it is, or something. And if I can get the solution to come more from her, her agency is maintained. I mean, she keeps control, and she doesn't. It's not like the oppositional parent versus kid thing. Any reactions to that?
If the child will be more forthcoming, that's a good thing. I think before I would jump to conclusions about it, I would probably want to talk to the teacher and see if the teacher feels that my child is having a struggle in math. I would obviously look at the papers that come home, but with some, maybe the papers aren't all there, and I'm not seeing the entire thing. And my child may not be willing to admit that the math is too hard or too easy or difficult for her. So I would want to check that, and there's usually a conference with the teacher that happens in the fall, and then you get a report. These days, a lot of times they're child-led conferences, so the child may be
I didn't know that.
talking and showing you what they're doing. There are so many interesting innovations happening today. There are pictures of kids on the wall with QR codes, and you can look at that, and then you can hear the child talking. Technology has really made it amazing, the things that you can find out about what's going on.
I liked your suggestion about going to see the teacher, so let's role play that a little bit. I'm going to be the teacher, and let's say you've had these concerns about Johnny, the idiot, me, in math.
Oh, let's make you Marty.
Oh, make me Marty. Okay.
if the shoe fits.
I just wanted the quintessential, right. So you're the parent coming in and you're speaking to Mrs. Smith. Would you begin?
Hi, Mrs. Smith. Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you.
So I was asking Martin when he came home from school what he did in school, and of course I got the usual nothing. And I asked to look at his notebook, and it seemed to me that he might be having some difficulty in math, and I just wanted to check in with you and get some perspective on how he's doing in comparison to the other kids in the class. And if he indeed is having a struggle, what can we do together to figure out how to improve his work?
By the way, I thought that was perfect, so that you know, I think that was really great modeling. So,
Well, number one, the idea is that we're in this together.
right.
It's not the teacher's job solely, it's not the parent's job solely, it's to work together as partners and provide the best experience for the child. So it may be that the child's having trouble in school with the math work because he isn't doing his homework, and so he's not reinforcing the skills that he learned. Or maybe he's just not paying attention in class, but that's what I want to find out, and then find out what we can do together, have a plan going forward.
Well, Mrs. Nemko, he's actually doing average in my class, but my class as a whole is struggling. We're all struggling. I'm needing.
Is that the new math curriculum?
Yes, I have to do the Common Core math curriculum, and it's quite rigorous. And I'm doing the best I can, but the whole class is struggling. He's about average, frankly, compared to the other kids.
Well, I think one of the important things that we're all doing is trying to think of math in different ways. And one of those ways is there is not one right way to do a problem.
No, you're the parent now. You're sounding like an educator.
Oh, whoops.
Right.
Is it hard to
I'm the
do
teacher,
that?
and I'm telling you that my child is average compared.
Okay, so, well,
Your child is average compared to the other kids. We're all struggling because the Common Core curriculum is very rigorous.
but children need to know how to do math, and so what can we do together that's going to help not only my son, but all of the children in the
Mrs.
class?
Smith, you know, we have all kinds of faculty development to try to improve our teaching. What I might recommend is, I understand you're a working mom, and is there a Mr. Nemko at home who could maybe do a little bit of, working with him on it, or a tutor?
He works too.
Can you afford a tutor? Or, the Napa Valley Unified School District does offer after-school programs. I don't know if it's at our school, but would you like, what are your thoughts about a tutor, either privately or see if we could find a resource within the Napa Valley Unified School District?
Well, tutors are expensive. The after-school program would be good because I know that they do help kids with homework.
I can make that work. I mean, I'm back to the teacher. Yes. So what do you think, Mrs. Nemko, about the idea of checking out? Maybe you and your child can, I know you work full-time, but either either you or his child care provider, the babysitter or whatever, maybe visit the after-school program. Maybe even himself, there's a late bus. Is that right? There's a late bus? I don't know.
There may be, but let me ask you a different question. What about online resources? We have an iPad. We have a computer at home. Are there things that he could do at home on using technology?
Yes.
I've heard about Khan Academy.
Yeah, I think that's one example, and I've heard of Khan Academy a few years ago, and to be honest, Mrs. Nemko, I'm really glad you bring it up. I'm not really current on whether it's the best or not, but there certainly is. We are working right now on doing the elements of geometry, including graphing, and that's current. A lot of the kids are finding it hard because they're having to learn a certain amount of algebra. I know he's only in the 5th grade, but a certain amount of algebra in order to calculate these areas of the parabola and tetrahedrons and whatever. But I think, I would consider that would be really good. And I guess I will. You've made such an effort to come in here. I will try to just redouble my efforts to see if I can give him a little more attention and see if we can get him through this. Because he's really a good kid. He's spacey. I mean, he's like every other, frankly, active boys, but he...
he's probably a little more active and a little more spacey than a lot of his friends.
You know,
He has trouble sitting still.
actually, Mrs. Smith, while you're here,
I'm
maybe,
Mrs. Nemko.
yeah, Mrs. Nemko, maybe this is not a bad time for me to ask you about this. He is quite active. You know, I've brought this here, you know, and when I knew you were coming in, he loves his shark, and he does it to go and kind of tease the girls, and he gets up and walks around a lot, and some of the problem is he doesn't pay attention. He won't even sometimes. He loves his spinner hat, and he seems to like spinning the hat. Do you have any thoughts about that, Mrs. Nemko?
Well, yes, we do have a fidget spinner at home.
What's that? I've heard of it.
It's a little handheld thing that for kids who fidget, it's something that's a little more unobtrusive than spinning your hat or poking kids or playing with your shark.
Yeah, I hear that's the big new toy these days.
And if it were possible, that might be a good thing for him to be able to use kind of quietly at his desk, if that will help him. I'm wondering if maybe we could devise some kind of a behavior plan for him where he gets some kind of rewards. At least we're looking at that every day.
You know, Mrs. Nemko, we're so overwhelmed, the idea of creating an individual plan. I know for my special needs kids, I have to do that. I do it all the time. I'm feeling a little resistant to that. You know, frankly, I actually was wondering whether you might take him to be evaluated for Ritalin, see, because he's showing at least, you know, I'm not a psychologist, but Mrs. Nemko, I'm wondering whether he's showing some of the signs of hyperactivity and whether he might be a candidate for Ritalin.
I'm not sure that I'm on the bandwagon for giving him drugs, but we certainly, the next time he has a checkup, have the doctor make a recommendation to who we could see to see if hyperactivity is a problem and what solutions there are. I'll do some research on hyperactivity to see what I might be able to do.
Mrs. Nemko, it was really great having you come in. So let's summarize. What do we want to remember from our conversation?
Well, number one, I would like some recommendations perhaps from you on programs besides Khan Academy. That's the one I know about, but other online math series or things that he could work on. I think that would be helpful. I will promise to do that.
I will promise to email you that.
Thank you. And I will have the doctor check and see what he thinks about hyperactivity. And even if we had a very simple behavior plan that all you had to do was put a check or an X or a smiley face or a sad face, just so he knows that you and I are in communication about his behavior on a regular basis.
I see. So maybe just a piece of paper and every day just write the date and, you know, smiley face or sad face.
Right, and then we both sign it at the end of the week, so it'll take about a second.
I could commit to doing that.
That would be, I think it would be good for him to know that we're communicating about this.
And if you would, you know, perhaps remember also either you or your husband or a private tutor or the after-school program, evaluate which one of those might be worth at least experimentally trying. That would be good.
Okay.
At the risk of sounding like a psychologist, Mrs. Nemko, how are you feeling about our work together?
I think we have a plan.
It was a pleasure having you come in. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, why don't you directly speak to the list? What do you think listeners or viewers should remember about parent-teacher conferences and the specifics, the math, the behavior problem, et cetera, from this?
I think what's most important about parent-teacher conferences is the sense of shared ownership of whatever the problem is. Obviously, as a parent, I have many more hours with my child, and I know my child really, really well. But the teacher is still dealing with my child for 6 hours a day and will have some good suggestions for things that I can do. Mostly, it's the idea of coming up with something so that the child knows that we're talking to each other. Sometimes kids think they can get away with things because mom's not in school, so she doesn't know what I'm doing. And there's one conference in the year, and so maybe the teacher will forget to say all the bad things I've done. So if we're talking, that puts the child on notice. And I think together we did come up with some good solutions because you thought of things I didn't think of, I thought of things you didn't think of, and we have a collaboration.
I also think it's important, you know, the technology thing. It somehow just didn't even cross my mind. But Barbara, you know, as the superintendent, that's what, you know, after age 50, she decided that realized that she was not technically up to speed, and she decided that was going to make her become a priority. And so it's important to think about. These days it doesn't require necessarily getting a tutor or going to the after-school program, although those can be great too. But there is like Khan Academy, so that was awesome, I thought. I also thought her moderate approach as a parent to the Ritalin suggestion. She really did strike the balance. It's scary why you want to put your kid on uppers, and yet there's really good data that for some kids it's really quite useful. She was very respectful. She didn't jump on it immediately, and she made a very reasonable plan, which is she would at the next pediatrician appointment ask about it. So I just think those are some good things to talk about. Now, there's a certain number of kids for whom there's a very different kind of problem, and that is school's too easy. We are in an era now where there are mixed ability classes. It used to be there was a class for the fast learners or the high ability kids, and there were a class for slow learners. But now, everybody from special ed to gifted, native speakers of English to newcomers, just little slow learning children and higher are all in the same class. And so there's a certain percentage of kids who really are bored a lot, not just because they don't understand why they need to know the area of parabola, but because they're reading on a 5th grade level. And the kid is, the class is on a third, basically functioning a lot of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade stuff. What advice, you don't have to role play, what advice do you have for parents of kids who legitimately have been looking at the homework, they see the kid go home with the homework all right, maybe even visit it in class, and say the kid is really, the work is too easy, what would you do?
I think we have come to a point in time where we put kids of all different levels and abilities together because it's important in the real world for people to know how to get along with people who are different than they are. And also, you can be the smartest kid in the world, and if you can't work with coworkers who maybe are not as quick as you, you're not going to be successful in life. Let me finish.
Okay.
We are very concerned with personalizing learning these days. And again, technology has had a huge part in that because we can do things where, for example, kids can read the same story, but each child can read it on his or her own reading level. In class, the teacher can teach a lesson on the topic of the story, and yet each kid is getting that independent practice on his or her own reading level. Those kinds of things are available. In projects, kids can do different kinds of roles. Some kids are really, really good at doing the art part of the project. I was awful in that. I was a great student at writing the paper.
I said, I need you here to keep me calm.
But I couldn't possibly
I said, come here. I need you. I need to stay calm.
The star of the show. I couldn't possibly do the artwork, and I can remember to this day, Leslie Edelman always came in with this beautiful poster board, and it was covered in saran wrap, and it had these gorgeous pictures, and I felt awful because I had just a piece of paper with handwriting on it. So working together, we might have been able to do a really fabulous project that would have been better than anything I could do by myself. Also, because of technology, kids can do completely different assignments. They don't always have to do exactly the same thing. So I can be working on one thing, somebody else is working on another thing, and I can be working on something that interests me particularly. We're trying very hard to figure out what it is that kids are personally interested in and relate that, if possible, to what they think they'd like to be when they grow up, to careers, and do things from that perspective. So you're looking at me like I've lost my mind.
It's TV. There can't be long lectures. Anyway.
You asked me what we could do.
Anyway, I do need to say, this is not always about agreeing, and I'm trying to be this show stealer here, but it's all, yes, technology, and there are various things that can be done to accommodate to mixed ability classes. But the reality is that there are many, many kids who sit stultified for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, notwithstanding that, and it is, every child, it seems to me, is entitled to an appropriate level education. And I do worry that many high-achieving kids are not getting that in today's egalitarian schools. And I would be, let me finish. I think I would be remiss in, the purpose of this show is really to be helpful, but not just, we agree mostly, but we're not going to agree here. I really think that society as a whole is better when all kids get their needs met. because really our fast learners are going to be our doctors, our lawyers, cure our cancers, be our wise, hopefully, political leaders, etc. And so I do urge you, frankly, as someone who was absolutely stultified in school, was just nuts, and they would have put me on Ritalin.
I may still.
Because I couldn't sit, it's unreasonable to ask a child who's bored all the time to sit. If we sit in a movie and we're bored for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we get bored. But 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and teacher yelling at you and giving you bad grades because the work is too easy, I urge you as a parent to do whatever you can to try to get your child into a teacher's class who is going to be sensitive to the needs of high-achieving kids. Yes, supplement after school. Yes, summer camps. And yes, online. Is that not reasonable?
But I disagree with you about the fundamental principle that kids are sitting there stultified all day. They are not.
I didn't say they all were.
You have
okay,
but you have a picture in your mind of your education, which was 50 years ago. This is not what's going on in classrooms today.
One more point about this. Of course, we all need to learn to interact with different kinds of kids. But sometimes you can do that at art and music and lunch and PE. But when we have kids in academic classes who are in the mixed ability classes, I think that the loss is greater than the gain.
At the high school level, there are AP classes and honors classes and lots of things for kids. And at the elementary school level, teachers are working very hard, and they are personalizing what they're doing and giving kids enrichment and giving kids interventions. So this is not your grandfather's school or your school. This is today's school.
We only have 2 minutes left, so. There's one other topic we really haven't talked about, which is either studies, your choice, study skills or organization.
Study skills, well, to me, those are the same. And I am thrilled.
This was actually our daughter's high school notebook. Look how neat. She was completely neat. If you saw mine, it would be like papers flying all over the place. And I would say, if we were role-playing, I'd say, but, I know where everything is. They don't have to be so neat. What would you say to me if you're the parent?
I would make you prove it. I would ask you to find me something and see if you really know where everything is, or it's just
give one quick tip then about study skills.
Classes. School-wide AVID is the best thing ever.
What is that? I never heard of it.
Achievement via individual determination. But what it teaches are the things that we used to assume that kids would bring from home, that they would come to school knowing how to take notes, knowing how to be organized, knowing how to keep their notebooks in some semblance of being able to find things. Today, we have classes for that, and kids have the opportunity to learn. So even in elementary school, they're learning how to take notes. I used to write everything the teacher said. I thought I was a stenographer. I would write every word, and that didn't do me any good later because it was too much. So knowing what is important to write, what isn't important to take notes on, knowing how to study, hugely important. We can't assume kids are going to figure it out on their own.
And that is the Nemkos Do Your Child's Best School Year Yet. Our next segment next month will be the Nemkos Do Doggies. Raising a good doggie, choosing a good doggie, making the most of a doggie, etc. I'm Marty Nemko. Thank you very much for watching.
I'm Barbara Nemko, and hope your child is having the best school year ever.